Hey, yo.
If I can be serious for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Acknowledge me.
What is up, Marks Mafia? We are back. It's been a minute. Cheap Pops with Primo. We are back. Of course, it's hosted by the Sit Down Marks podcast. Usually I am alone because I'm the co-host from the East Coast, but now we got the host that does the most on the show with us. That is DB. Welcome in, DB.
Well, what's going on, Primo? Thanks for finally letting me come on Cheap Pops, man. I'm a big fan, so thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks. They couldn't have him without you. So today on Cheap Pops, we're going to talk about things that are kind of in the season. We're in spooky season. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about things that we have had going on here in the past September. We had top unsigned women's wrestlers, and we did have a DB's Territory Treasure about referee Tommy Young. Great episode by DB. You can also go back, like I've said many times before, those are all individual episodes, those DB Territory Treasures. So you can go in and listen to any of them at any time. DB, what we got coming up this month?
Yeah, thanks for the plug, man. A lot of people may not know this, but the reason why I started this, DB's Territory Treasures was because of Cheap Pops with Primo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I got inspired to do this, but man, I tell you what, Primo, like I've loved doing Territory Treasures, but I'm not going to have as much fun as I'm having coming up here, because what I'm going to be talking about next month later on this month is the guy that got me into wrestling, the guy that got me into wanting to see what the business was all about. Why was this guy, such beloved? But the guy I'm going to be talking about, I'll try to keep it short because I could probably talk all day about this guy, but the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about him coming up. Putting a lot of work and thought into this because there's so much I can talk about, but we try to keep them short and simple. These Cheap Pops and Territory Treasures, they're designed to be able to listen to anytime. They're designed to be able to listen to when you on your way to work, on your way to the grocery store, in your ear pods while you're at work, that kind of stuff. So but yeah, I'm having a blast doing it, man. But yeah, really excited for this one. And I'm going to be playing some Boogie Woogie promos. I'm going to be playing some old school stuff too, man. And just talk about that feeling I had as a childhood of watching, Jimmy Valiant. So if you can't tell, I'm already excited.
Hell yeah. I remember you telling some stories on the flagship back in the day on some of our earlier episodes. So can't wait to listen to that one. Well, let's get to what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about here on Cheap Pops with Primo today and DB. In the honor of spooky season, we're going to talk about our top 5 all-time favorite favorite weapons in wrestling. That was a rewind.
Yeah.
So yeah, our top 5 favorite weapons in wrestling. That could be from any era, any, whatever comes to your mind. We're going to tell you why. We're going to tell you a little bit of just a short little blurb about why we like that. And if you hear one or don't hear one that we may have not listed, then feel free to drop it in the comments, drop it in our Discord, drop it anywhere you may see fit. Hit us up on social medias. They're tagged down below in the details, and tell us what your favorite weapons were. So without further ado, we're going to get to our top 5 favorite weapons. So I'll start it off, DV.
Sounds good, easy. Brother.
My 5th, starting at number 5 for me.
Okay.
It's an interesting one, but I think of it in 2 different ways. I'm going to just say my 5th weapon that I like is medical devices.
Okay.
Now that's 2 things. That's either a wrestling that is work injured and he has a crutch, or a fan handing a prosthetic leg. I love that. That's a good, that's a good. That'll get a pop from Primo every time.
Yeah, and that gets a pop from every crowd everywhere ever.
Right.
Everybody. If a prosthetic leg's being handed to a wrestler, you damn right they're going to use it because crowd's
Hell
going to love
yeah.
it.
I mean, that's easy. It's a great pop for everybody around. And I just like the crutch. The crutch, they're made out of aluminum. I don't know how. I've never been hit with one, but I always like the way they bend around their back.
Yeah.
But yeah, my number 5 is medical devices.
Yeah. You know what? Out of the big long list that I make, I don't think I come up with that, but it makes me realize like how much stuff is actually used in wrestling to hit wrestlers with, and that kind of stuff. But man, yeah, I love that one though. For me, number 5, a little more across the board, a little more, normalcy in wrestling, is used, when we see Tommy Dreamer, when we see the Sandman, we think of, the kendo stick or a Singapore cane, depending on which era you're from or, what part of the country you use it on. But, this has always been a brutal part of wrestling, man. You know what I mean? Because this thing snaps, it breaks, it sounds like it hurts every time somebody gets popped with one, and it's just synonymous with wrestling. So
they always beat the tar out of them until it breaks.
Yeah, they do, man. And it's always used in any kind of weapons match or street fight or brawl in the.
They even had Singapore cane matches.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's definitely synonymous in wrestling. So that's my number 5.
Another one about that one too is. That's one of those weapons. Not that I want anybody to actually get hurt, but that's one of those weapons that leaves a visible mark. Like they'll have whelps across their back or side,
Yeah, and they usually don't hold back too far because the kendo will bend. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, still pinches and hurts. And leaves marks that show till the next day or two.
So, my number 4 is. I think honestly, regular tables are okay, but gimmicks tables are even better. So my number 4 is gimmicks tables, meaning tables with, unfortunately, barbed wire, but that's not really what I thought of. I thought of the flaming table, like when Edge speared Cactus Jack or Mick Foley through the ropes onto the flaming table. Cody Rhodes went through the flaming table.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? That's just one that it sticks out in my brain. I can see that imagery.
Right.
Barbed wire table's fine too. That one's more of a cringy one for me. But yeah, I say flaming table number 4.
Yeah, and for me too, the images when I think of that is like Bubba ECW, Bubba Ray Dudley spraying, the lighter fluid on the table, Sabu doing that, you know what I mean? Flaming tables, it's huge. My number 4, man, we're going to go back a little bit. This is where my age kind of comes into effect. When my dad was little, man, or excuse me, when I was little, my dad, he loved the heels. He loved the bad guys. And he was always a fan of this, of this warrior. And his name, he went by the Great Kabuki. And he always sprayed this gray-green mist out of his, that would obviously blind the opponent, like we see Asuka doing today.
Yeah.
We seen Great Muta do that.
Great Muta, Tajiri.
Yeah, Tajiri. It's always been like a use of the mist in that culture of wrestling. You know what I mean? And I grew up on that a lot. And it just made me mad, he's blowing mist on Sting's face and Flair's face and Boogie's face and, making me go crazy as a kid, you know what I mean? But like, to me, that's always like a, kind of an underground weapon, that's kind of used, in a different sentiment to, gain different,
they always do the thing with the neck.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's always usually like a heel tactic. You know what I mean? You don't see too many baby faces using the mist or whatever. But for whatever reason, that always sticks out to me. And always has. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, and it's always I guess rumor behind it, or the mystery behind it is everybody's it's the poison mist.
Right.
It's poison. They're blinded.
They can't see.
Yeah,
they can't see. Right.
Right. Like when the Tajiri did it to he went to go do it to Jamie Noble, and he got Nydia. She was blind for like
right. Yeah. And they played that storyline on for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
He must have blew some special mist on her face to make it last longer.
That one was potent. All right. So number 3 for me is it's not really one that's used like okay. So I don't know what we would categorize this as. I would say it is used a lot, but it's not always used as like, people may not think of it as a weapon, is what I'm saying. But I love a good, whenever a wrestler gets behind somebody and they pick up that title belt and they go and just knock the crap out of them with that title belt. The surprise title belt shot, always, I love that. It's not, like I said, it's not like swinging a baseball bat or something like that in a match, but it doesn't always happen in a match. It may happen any time of the show.
Right.
But a title belt is my number 3. With it just has happened for as long as wrestling's been around.
Right. Yeah, and it's always a constant weapon that a heel can carry around. Open carry. You know what I mean? That everybody can see. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they can. How many times you've seen somebody get clubbed in the back of the head with one, and it's been used in so many finishes and matches. You know what I mean? When you think about that over the course of your life that you watch wrestling, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's huge. It's synonymous with wrestling too. It's it's another one, you know what I mean? So
there's title. Everybody has title. I mean, everybody, but, that's what wrestling's known for, is their championships, and
and they can't go far away from the champion. So it's always ringside. It's somewhere, you know what I mean? Sitting on the apron or sitting with the ring announcer next to the bell. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. All right, Primo. So my number 3, man, is, this is not necessarily a weapon. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, but I mean, it kind of is like it was hard for me to leave this one out of the list, I'm, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, the flagship podcast, that I'm a, big Boogie Woogie fan. I saw him in my living room, and we'll be talking about that. But like the one big moment that like captured me is when he got his head shaved, right? And in the feud with Paul Jones and Shaska Watley, we'll be talking about that later. But I also loved watching Brutus the Beefcake cut people's hair. You know what I mean, with clippers and scissors and stuff like that. So my number 3 is clippers, because shaving hair versus hair. It's always been a part of wrestling. So I feel like this is, we kind of got to put this in the weapons there, because, it's kind of like, hair versus hair. You have a match to see who can use the weapon on the other guy after the match is over with, or how many times have you seen guys be knocked out, and get their hair cut, but you always got me. If you're shaving somebody's head in a wrestling match, I'm always watching that, right? Like, I'm not turning away from this. Like, I'm interested. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see how crappy a haircut job you can give them. You know what I mean? And
and you're right. It is a thing where the hair match has become a big deal, whether it's hair versus hair versus career, hair versus mask,
right?
And this battle of the billionaires. But what's funny is, like, it's the same thing as kind of like, I wouldn't say the same thing, but in the back, if like behind the scenes, if they're starting to thin out or something and they're going to cut their hair anyway, they're like, all right, hold on, let's make something out of this.
Right. Yeah.
Versus, just shaving their head. No, but I definitely like it, because it's like when Kurt Angle, he's the one that sticks out to me the most. Because when he got his head shaved by Edge, he wore that hairpiece for like ever to try to hide it.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know what I mean? Like, hair, losing it. It's always been funny, synonymous in wrestling. You know what I mean? So and Brutus made a hell of a career off of
Mm-hmm.
cutting jobbers' hairs, and then the pay-per-views cutting, whoever the other, you know what I mean? And like so yeah, for me, number 3 is the hair clippers, believe it or not.
Nice. My number 2 is probably going to be an unpopular one, but there's one specific match that makes me like this as my number 2. It's one of my favorite hardcore matches of all time.
Okay.
My number 2 is unfortunately Thumbtacks. Now, that is because of Backlash 04, Foley versus Randy Orton.
Right.
And that match, it was really like Randy Orton's becoming a man match.
Sure. Right.
Cactus Jack put him through the paces. But it was a big part of I was 15 years old at that time, so it was like big time for me. No, and since then, obviously, tacks have been used. We just had a tacks and tables match, the other day with Briscoe.
Yeah,
that's the first time I seen them start the match with tacks all over the mat, and I was just like, "Holy crap!" But I always think about it because it's getting in your boots, it's getting in your knee pads, it's getting in the ref. Is every time he goes to count, he's slapping the mat. It's really, once they put it down, the reason I like it is because once you put those down, it's kind of like like messing with damn insulation. If you're messing with it, you're gonna get itchy.
Yeah.
So you're messing with the tacks, you're gonna get stuck somewhere.
Yeah, I think Marina Shafir on Dynamite the other night got dropped in at feet first in a bunch of tacks, and that probably felt worse than anything I've ever seen anybody take. Yeah. Like Thumbtacks didn't make my list, but another one. If you're dropping them out, man, like I want to see what's happening. I want to see who's going to get canned on these things, and how are you going to do it? Is it going to be face first, on your back, chest first, legs, feet? Like what I mean? Like it adds a different element to the match that makes you go, oh hell, I
remember Randy Orton going for the RKO on Cactus Jack, and then he just pushes him off of him to counter, and Randy Orton flat backs it, and he only wears underwear, so that sucks for him. But that's my number 2.
All right, man. My number 2 is and you probably, as soon as I say one name, you're gonna know where I'm going with this. Like through the 90s and 2000s, like there was one guy that I particularly especially when I started getting into the heels, I was a Triple H guy. You know what I mean? I watched Triple H a lot. He introduces the sledgehammer when he really became the cerebral assassin, and at first I'm like, whatever. You can't really like club anybody with a sledgehammer, but I felt like he found like innovative ways to use it on people. You know what I mean? Using the handle, hitting them in the gut, actually, popping people in the head with it. Sometimes I think sometimes there was some working sledgehammers,
of course,
you know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. But I don't know, man. And to me, this kind of became like, like a moniker of Triple H. It was, kind of always like, when he went to another level is when things got serious. Imagine when he pulled that thing out from under the ring, you're like, oh shit, like you know what I mean? He's getting ready to crush.
Yeah, so sledgehammer always seems definitely more devastating, especially in the hands of Triple H. You just because there's weight in a sledgehammer already, and then with somebody as strong as Triple H swinging that thing at you, or taking his, to punch you in the face with it, that's terrible. That's gotta suck. I always remember the SummerSlam 02 match with him versus Shawn Michaels, where he straight up, when Shawn Michaels is on his knees and he just boom with the sledgehammer.
Yeah. And it became a part of his personality, really. You know what I mean? It was just like, it went to another level when he brought it out.
Right. Yeah, that's a great one. Great one. All right. So my number one. Yeah, let's go. I'm going to go through 5 to 1 real quick. So number 5, I had medical devices, i.e. crutches, prosthetic legs from the crowd, that kind of thing. Number 4, we had gimmick tables, more specifically flaming tables. Number 3, I had title belts. And now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm gonna think of that like a weapon accessory. They like, I like what you said. They always have it on them, so it's like an accessory.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Number 2 is thumbtacks, and my number 1.
All
if
right.
You know me. I hail from the land of the extreme. I am a gigantic fan of the Hardy Boys,
Right.
Team Extreme. As a kid, I was jumping off ladders onto a trampoline.
Right.
I was doing all that stuff. My number 1 weapon has got to be the ladder.
Sure.
It's, become ever since, the most famous earlier match is obviously Shawn and Razor.
Yeah.
And then from then on, and once the tag team division got a hold of it, it really took off. And then, that evolved to the 6-man ladder matches, to the Money in the Bank ladder matches.
Yeah.
You even have, it's really made things evolve in wrestling to the fact to where, ladders can be used everywhere. TLC matches, everything. So yeah, the fact that they figured out how you can do all these things. Jeff Hardy would use the ladder to springboard off of it.
Crazy.
There was that one time they crushed Joey Mercury's face, but
Yeah. Oh God, I know that. Remember that.
There's they sometimes they'll put it on and do the whole tilt-a-whirl thing with a helicopter.
Yeah.
With the ladder. So it's just they figured out how versatile a simple ladder can be.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy because they'll have one that's like a 12-foot ladder to like a damn 20-foot ladder. And you're just like, they'll bring out that big boy and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And anytime somebody whenever they make the bridge and somebody goes through a ladder, I always think that is more devastating than a regular table.
I do too. There's a lot of pinching that could happen there.
Exactly.
That could really mess somebody up. I always think of that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, ladder is my number 1.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'm a big Razor guy, so Razor, Shawn, ladder, I love that. And I think WWE has realized it so much that the ladder is such a big deal that they made it on pay-per-view based around the ladder, Money in the Bank. You know what I mean? So, I love that one too. All right, so number 5 for me was the kendo stick. Singapore cane, whichever region you're from. Number 4 was the green mist or mist just in general. Sprayed it upon his face. Number 3, not so much a weapon, but kind of post whatever. The good old hair clippers. Number 2 was the sledgehammer, and my number 1, man. So old school guy, right? Growing up in the 80s, I wasn't a real big fan of this guy. But and I've always kind of had a little bit of obsession with when these things happen in wrestling. Like I just love it, man. But he didn't do it the best. But the first time I seen Honky Tonk Man bust a guitar over somebody's head,
wow,
I was like, that's the coolest spot in wrestling. Like I love that, man. It looks so original. It looks so real. You know what I mean? Gimmick guitars or not, that looks so real. You know what I mean? Like when somebody brings in a guitar that's, it's kind of hard to, like figure out that, a guitar is built a certain kind of way, but you can't really it's got to be shaped like a guitar, right? You know what I mean? So, and then, later on when Jeff Jarrett, who I think has done it the best of anybody.
Yeah.
Slap nuts, like during that whole era, I love that, man, because he had my eye on him all the time because in a blink of an eye, and when he had that thing in his hand, he could just bust somebody. And then, nobody was off limits. You know what I mean? Like Mae Young took it, Stacy Keibler, took him, you know what I mean? Chyna, obviously tons of men wrestlers, too, but I've always been fascinated with that. That's like my favorite, weaponry spot in wrestling, just because too. And I always like to see how clean Jeff hit him.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was a good shot or not, how much the guitar shatters into, you know, like thousands of pieces. Like I want it to explode like a bomb, you know what I mean? And like, you know, I don't know. It's always been a fun spot. And it's fun too to me to see how that person sells
Right.
this shot that they just take. You know, some of them just like fold out like they go cold and just fall dead over. You know, some of them, you know, sit down, fall straight back. Some of them, you know, go out. You know what I mean? So I don't know, just that whole like couple seconds kind of makes my heart stop for a second. You know,
Definitely.
I'm like, oh yeah, you know,
and that's gotta be one of the biggest, like the most stolen, like, you know how you like this would be one of those where it's a wrestler exclusive weapon,
right?
Like Honky Tonk Man, Jeff Jarrett, but it has to be one of the most stolen weapons to use against them. You know,
right? Yeah.
Anytime it's in the ring, it's up for grabs, basically.
Right.
Elias,
I like that too. I feel like he should have done that more. I don't think he really touched on that too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know, maybe they stayed away from that for certain reasons. But is there any Primo? Let me ask you, man. Is there anyone that you hate that just makes you cringe that you wish they wouldn't do? Because I'm gonna throw one out there that I do. You know what I mean? But you know, I just want to see if you had one before I start. You know, I'll give you a second to think about it. So what makes me cringe, dude, is when like somebody pulls out, like I don't watch deathmatch wrestling, but when somebody pulls out a staple gun, that's when I like, all right, I might just have to look away for a second because I don't want to see anybody get stapled in, you know, I mean, their skull or like, I don't know. Those staple gun just always makes him kind of go, you know?
So I immediately thought of a chain, and not because the chain would, not because when they whip them in the back with it,
right?
But every time I've seen somebody try to wrap a chain around their knee, it never works. It always falls off.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's kind of like we're kind of taking us out of that suspending our disbelief situation.
Sure. Any weaponry we didn't talk about? Obviously, we didn't talk about steel chair,
beer bottles. That's number one that comes to mind. Yeah, steel chairs.
Yeah, brass knuckles.
Brass knucks. Grande Americano has the metal plate in his head now.
Right, metal plate. There you go. Yeah. Roll of quarters.
Yeah, roll of quarters. Yeah.
Roll of quarters, old school. What'd you say?
Money in the Bank briefcase.
There you go. Yep. Steel steps.
The barricade. Yeah, steel steps.
Yeah. Barricade.
Do they really weigh 500 pounds or whatever they say? I don't know. They look a little thin to me, but you know.
Yeah.
I was thinking, when I think of the guardrail, I think of the metal guardrail. That when they slam them really hard into it.
Yeah. I mean,
sometimes they even makeshift that into a lean table.
Sure. You know, you've seen like a spike. You know, like a Jimmy Jacobs on the indie scene used it a lot. Edge, Cope, whatever you want to call him. He was doing that chair spot for a while.
Yeah.
He would pull off the chair.
Right.
Put it in your eye. You know,
you got light tubes, of course.
Yeah.
Any glass iteration.
Right. Yeah. Those kind of make me want to look away too, but
those
also
are kind of
with one eye. Like
that's a car crash.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, man. Well, that was mine and DB's top 5 wrestling weapons of all time. We got through it. It was actually pretty fun. What I think was even cooler was this might be the first time in Sit Down Mark's history that we didn't have anything on the other person's list.
Right. Yeah.
So
true.
That was pretty impressive on our part. We didn't plan that. We didn't tell each other our lists. So
right.
It's good to have that happen. But anyway,
versatile.
Thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Cheap Pops or Primo. Thank you very much to DB for coming on. This is very fun.
Yeah, it was.
As we said before, we had some episodes in September that you can go check out. We had Rising Stars in the Indies, Top Unsigned Women's Wrestlers, of course, DB's Territory Treasures about referee Tom and Young. We have a couple flagship episodes coming up in October, as well as another DB Territory Treasures about, who is that, DB?
Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, right. Mercy Daddy.
That's right. So, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being supporters of the podcast. Of course, this episode and DB Territory Treasures are hosted by the Sit Down Marks podcast. We couldn't do it without myself, DB, Dylan, the podcast, and all you fans out there. So thanks for listening, and we will catch you down the road.